Lavrov says military scenarios against Syria should be avoided and the Syrians have to decide their future by themselves. New reports and documents prove the involvement of terrorists in chemical weapons use in Syria. And a number of terrorists confessed to taking part in committing brutal crimes against Syrian citizens and army personnel.
Good afternoon, this is news in English from the Syrian Arab Division in Damascus. Syria's permanent representative to the United Nations, Dr. Bashar Jafari, said that he informed the United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon that Syria has joined the Convention on the Prohibition of Development, Production, Stockpiling and Use of Chemical Weapons of 1992. In a statement, Al-Jafari said that he asked on behalf of the Syrian government, Ki-moon as the custodian of the convent, to lodge the document of Syria's joining at the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, the OBCW, and inform all UN member states of Syria's decision to join the convention. He pointed out that Syrian Foreign and Expatriates Minister Walid al-Muallim sent a letter to the Director General of the OBCW informing him of Syria's joining the convention. Jafari noted that this wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision, as Syria had submitted to the Security Council in 2003 a draft resolution for making the entire Middle East clear of weapons of mass destruction, but all Syria's efforts in this regard were thwarted by the refusal of Israel and its protectors. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov stressed that military scenarios in Syria should be avoided, adding that Russia's starting point in work with the United States is Damascus' decision to join the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons. In a joint press conference with his US counterpart John Kerry, Lavrov noted that he stressed the issue of avoiding military scenarios regarding Syria in his meeting with Kerry, as well as that of the Syrians determining their destiny by themselves. He stressed that there cannot be talk now about using force or any punishment against Syria, noting that any breach of the terms agreed upon concerning the Syrian chemical weapons will be discussed by the Security Council, which is to adopt suitable decisions. Lavrov considered that solving the issue of chemical weapons in Syria is a step towards making the Middle East region free of weapons of mass destruction. He also highlighted that what was agreed upon today between Russia and the US is considered a major step towards finding the comprehensive solution to the crisis in Syria. Lavrov said there are countries who have worked hard to fund the war in Syria, while there are other countries that are striving to reach a peaceful solution toward of destruction and bloodshed. For his part, the US Secretary of State said all parties know that there is no military solution to the crisis in Syria, affirming that the solution should be political. Kerry stressed readiness to give a chance to the ongoing diplomatic efforts regarding the chemical weapons in Syria. He made clear that what he and Lavrov are doing in Geneva is implementing the agreement reached between US President Barack Obama and Russian President Vladimir Putin in St. Petersburg summit. Chairman of the Russian State Duma Foreign Affairs Committee, Alexander Pushkov, stressed that the United States cannot make single-handed global political decisions anymore. Russia Today website quoted Pushkov as saying on Twitter that the BRICS countries approved Russia's stances on Syria, and later at Shanghai Organization of Cooperation SCO summit held recently in Kyrgyzstan, which is a lesson to the US President Barack Obama.
Правительство Сирии, скорее всего, ее поддержит.
Assistant Regional Secretary of the Socialist Arab Al-Baath Party, Hilal, Governor of Damascus countryside Hussein Makhlouf, and Secretary of the Baath Arab Socialist Party branch in Damascus countryside Muhammad Bakhit toured the city of Malula after the army cleared the area of terrorists. The visitors were briefed by the army officers on the military operations which inflicted heavy losses upon the armed terrorist groups before rescuing 2 civilians from the area who were abducted by the terrorists for a week. Hilal stressed that the Syrian people, in cooperation with the army, were able to overcome the plot and confront the armed terrorist groups. For his part, Makhlouf said that the governorate has started to repair the infrastructure in the city, adding that the government will provide loans to the locals to enable them to rebuild their damaged houses. In turn, Bakhit said that the unity among the Syrian people will remain strong despite all the plots and schemes that aim at undermining it, adding that the Battle of Malula is the battle of the people and the army. Leaked classified CIA document discloses that Al-Qaeda-linked armed groups fighting in Syria processed and manufactured sarin gas to launch chemical attacks against Syrian civilians, another evidence on the involvement of these groups in the chemical attack perpetrated on the 21st of August in Ghouta area in Damascus countryside, called the Syrian government responsible for that attack and to call for an American military intervention. The document further asserted that 12 of Jabhat al-Nusra were detained with bottles of sarin gas in their possession south of Turkey along the Syrian-Turkish border earlier this year, adding that these poisonous bottles were smuggled from Iraq to be smuggled to Syria later on. The document further asserted that the American army carried out many investigations and that news coming from Iraqi tribes showed more than 50 traces that proved that Al-Qaeda in Iraq developed sarin gas to be smuggled to Syria, and that the preliminary results of the investigation carried out by the United Nations on the terrorist chemical attack on Khan al-Assad district in Aleppo pointed strongly that the armed groups were behind it. For his part, expert in the international terrorism Joseph Podensky said that the latest results on the chemical attack on Ghouta proved that the chemical attack perpetrated by the armed groups against its own posts aimed to bring about the American intervention to Syria, and that the chemical substances used were preliminary prepared in houses and not by armies. A number of terrorists confessed to taking part in committing brutal crimes against citizens and army personnel, including abduction and murder, vandalizing public establishments and receiving funds and weapons from countries in the region. More about that in the following.
My friend Muhammad Khalid Al-Hussein from Al-Hamra village in Hama city, who was performing the military service with me, defected from the army and encouraged me to do so and joined the terrorist group of Al-Bara affiliated to Al-Nusra Front. I left the base where I was serving in Suwaida and joined up with the terrorists who gave me a monthly salary of 12,000 Syrian pounds. They gave me an automatic rifle, 3 full magazines and 200 bullets. Members of the terrorist group and I attacked army checkpoints in Dar'a countryside, including 2 in Khirbat Ghazale, where we slaughtered all 35 soldiers in it and stole their weapons, which we turned over to Jabhat al-Nusra. I also took part in 8 acts of abduction, including 2 in which the abductees were delivered to a man called Muhammad Zabi in the town of Al-Msayfre, where Al-Zabi issued a fatwa to kill the 2 after they refused to join the terrorists. So I slit their throats while they were tied up. 2 of my associates slaughtered the throats of the other 6 abductees, and they were rewarded with 1,500 Syrian pounds for everyone whose throat was slit, and 2,000 for each attack on an army checkpoint. I am a member of a group affiliated with Jabhat al-Nusra. I was recruited with a promise of being paid 12,500 Syrian pounds a month and 2,000 for each attack on a checkpoint. After being given an automatic rifle, I took part in several attacks on checkpoints in Damascus countryside and opened fire against 15 Syrian army personnel. I also took part in dozens of robberies and thefts of stores and warehouses. We also received funds and weapons from Qatar, and we were joined by gunmen from Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, Palestine and other countries. The group's leader, Bashar Awad, asked me to join the army to get a rifle and then run away with it. So I enlisted but ran away without stealing a rifle and joined the terrorist group. The first operation I took part in was the detonation of a car bomb in Khan al-Sheikh area, when I helped in rigging the car with around 500 kilograms of explosives, and later my group and I detonated a second car bomb in the same area and took part in several attacks on checkpoints there, killing around 20 soldiers. The leader of the group asked me to bring one of my 3 wives to serve as a wife for the other terrorists, so I brought my wife Fatima Ahmed Farouk to the group. We received explosives, weapons and funds from Jordan. I was recruited by the leader of a terrorist group who knew my uncle, who was harboring him and recruiting for his group. My uncle talked me into joining with the promise of receiving 12,000 Syrian pounds per month. I participated in the operations carried out in the eastern Ghouta alongside with other terrorists from Libya, Afghanistan, Pakistan and Jordan. We were receiving money from Turkey via the terrorist group's leader who were distributing it. I am affiliated to Altair Battalion alongside 500 other gunmen. I participated in the attack on the Vehicle Management Department in Harasta. We killed 11 military personnel and kidnapped 9 others from the Technical Institute. I also took part in preparing 2 booby-trapped cars which were later detonated in Jaramana and Al-Qazzaz, claiming dozens of lives and wounding others.
And with this we end our news for today. Thank you for watching. For more details about Syria and the region, and to view this bulletin again, you can always go to our website in English, www.syriaonline.sy. Now to the latest in the world of business and market news with Nariman Qassam, but after a short break.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. The Export Development and Promotion Agency said that Syrian exports of olive oil this year exceeded the amount of exports of the past 7 years. The chairman of the Agriculture Chamber Union has estimated the exports value at 30 billion Syrian pounds, as this number reflects the growing importance of this crop on the national economy level, specifically after the qualitative and quantitative development of Syria in regard of this tree, reflected in the number of cultivated areas, which reached about 700,000 hectares, and its production that reached 1 million tons of olive oil. The Minister of Agriculture, Ahmed Al-Qadri, called for cooperating with the concerned parties to overcome the obstacles that are facing the marketing of citrus crop, both locally and internationally. The Minister also said that the Ministry plans to find new outlets for marketing citrus crops locally and internationally, which in turn lead to protecting the producers and consumers and achieve a balance in the local market, asserting that the organic farming increases the marketing process and keeps the quality level of all agricultural products. Brent crude prices capped its biggest weekly drop since July. The Brent crude futures contract for October rose 50 cents to reach more than $112 a barrel, and US crude settled down 39 cents at $108 a barrel. The volume of exchange at Damascus Securities Exchange for this week have reached 36,450,000 Syrian pounds. Moreover, the volume of exchange has reached more than 283,000 shares. The markets index has risen by 7.55 points, closing with a value estimated at 12.35 points. The banking sector came first in terms of volume of exchange, followed by insurance, then industrial sectors. The benchmark Standard & Poor's 500 index posted its largest weekly gain in 2 months, raising 2% for the week. U.S. stocks will remain range-bound until resolution of next week's federal meeting. European equities advanced for a second straight week and set a 2-month high. Japanese shares also rose on high trading volumes, posting their first back-to-back weekly gain since July. Gold fell 1% today and almost 6% for the week, its biggest weekly loss since the 2nd of last week of June. Gold pared losses and turned higher after its settlement. U.S. gold futures for December settled down $22 to reach $1,308 an ounce. Spot gold last traded at $1,324. The dollar weakened against the euro and the yen for most of the day, while the yield on benchmark treasuries fell as investors adjusted positions ahead of the federal meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, this was our economic news for today. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.